Hey everybody, I think I'm live. I'm sorry, I really can't ever tell. Sometimes there's a circle that goes around and then it tells me I'm live, and sometimes there's nothing, so I'm just guessing and I am sitting here awkwardly, but I don't want the first part of what I say to get cut off. But anyway, happy Monday. It's Jessica, and I have so much I want to talk about. I'm going to try to narrow it down and spread it out throughout the week. So I'm going to cover most important things first things first. And I first want to address some of the posts from yesterday, just because I've heard a lot of things about them, and I want to address it from two different angles. One, it takes a lot of guts to come into a group of people and admit that you're having a really hard time. And I want to applaud that because I want to applaud that behavior coming in and talking about it, because I know that for all of us in the past, that is something we would have sat alone with. We would have just derailed. We would not have reached out. And even in a post when you're saying you feel like giving up, and Jeff, obviously I'm referring to your post yesterday where you posted here in the group, and we're feeling so bad about that. Even in a post where you say, I feel like giving up, there's so much hope in it, because the very fact that you came in a group and said, I feel like giving up, means you're not ready to give up. Because when you've actually given up, you just go away, you disappear. And so as much as Ed, the voice of sabotage, the enemy, wants you to think you're at a place where you're done, you're not. The fact that you reached out means that that part of you that wants to survive, wants to thrive, wants to get well, is actually stronger than that part of you that wants to give up. Because, again, the person who really, truly has given up doesn't reach out. And so I just want to point that out. It's actually a really positive thing, because reaching out is not easy to do. Again, it feels heavy, it feels shameful, you worry how that's going to affect other people. Another positive thing that comes from reaching out in a situation like that is other people will feel brave enough to share their struggles. And we saw that yesterday. I think we had about 4 people say, yep, me too, I'm struggling. And that is a really positive thing as well, because probably if the first post hadn't come that talked about struggling, other people would not have felt like they could admit their struggles either. And again, when we're used to struggling alone, and remember, you're not alone. When you're alone, you're struggling with Ed. When we shine a bright light on our struggles, it actually makes Ed have to flee. It gives him less power, and it makes you feel not as alone. So that's what I wanted to say first, that I think that is the most wonderful thing about it. I think the third thing that's actually good that comes from posts like that, is that you do see helpers. You know, whenever you see struggles in life, in the world, in anything, if you open your eyes, and you look past the struggle, you see that struggles are surrounded by people who want to help. And if you read the comments on those posts, those of you guys who have struggled or are struggling, there's people that care. It isn't just about commiserating, and that's what we don't want. It's actually people who step in and say, you can do this. I've been where you've been, and now I am doing okay. And those people are out there, and they're here in this group. Here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want the group to become just a confessional. It's okay to come and say you're struggling. I just talked about all the reasons why that's good. But it's not okay to just stay there. It's step number 1. Step number 1 is, I'm opening the doors to my life. I'm telling you I'm having a really hard time, right? That is absolutely the key to breakthrough. I'm willing to shine a light on this ugliness, on my struggle, on my pain. Hearing someone else saying they're struggling is a very good thing, and that allows you to open the doors to your pain. But you have to go somewhere from there, and I hope that's where everybody woke up today. In fact, some of the posts that I'm seeing here in the group and the commitments lead me to believe that that is the case, that you woke up today understanding, okay, even though I struggled yesterday, it doesn't mean that today is lost. it's really, really, really important that, one, you look for the helpers. There are so many sober people in this group. I was going through, the list of members, and I was like, this, because I work with so many of you guys individually. I'm like, this person's sober, this person's sober, this person's sober, this person's sober. In fact, there's so many of you who are having success. And I think sometimes in a group like this, people who are doing really well, they hesitate to say so. They hesitate to come in and make a post because they don't want to make people who are struggling feel bad. And I am here to encourage you. You need that balance in the group. For every one person that says, I'm struggling, we need 3 or 4 people to come in and say, you can do this. I've been where you are, and here's my post, and here's my success. Never hesitate to post because you're worried that your positive post is going to make someone who's struggling feel bad. What it actually does is, and it's true, they may compare themselves to you, and that may cause them to not feel happy about where they are, but it also shows them it can be done. So I really, really want to encourage those of you, and again, I know so many of you who are absolutely sober. We also have our struggles, or we wouldn't be in this group. But those of you who are sober, there's some of you that are really long-term sober. I mean, I know at least 7 of you just right off the bat. I could name your names, but I don't want to miss anybody who's sober. What you can offer is a real-life example of hope in someone who has done this. Again, I really want to encourage you, tell your story. Talk about your sobriety. Give hope to those people who are struggling, because we don't want the group to be unbalanced. The next thing that I want to talk about, and this might feel kind of like a strongly worded thing to say, but I'm just going to go there. You can choose to get better, or you can choose to get worse. There is no such thing as staying the same. So if you're struggling, and day after day after day after day you are struggling, here's what I'm telling you. It is your choice, and under no circumstances are you staying the same. You are not the same. Whatever decisions you made yesterday, you are not the same today as you were yesterday. You're not. You either got better yesterday or you got worse yesterday. But the neat thing about that is each day you have a new chance to make that decision all over again. Is this a day that I'm going to get better, or is this a day I'm going to get worse? And even if you don't acknowledge that that's the case, you're still making the choice. So each day that you wake up, it doesn't matter much what happened yesterday. You don't have to worry about tomorrow, but you have a choice to make. And you're either getting better or you're getting worse. So as you wake up in the morning, one of your first thoughts should be, am I going to choose to get better today, or am I going to choose to decline further? The thing about declining further is eventually you will get to a place where you are forced to change. And I got to that place where I was forced to change. I had a health emergency, right? You get to a place at some point where it's out of your control. You're either going to die or you're going to change. And none of you, I don't want to see any of you get to that level of sick where you are forced to change. Do it while you have a choice. And right now you have a choice. Every day you can choose, today is a day I'm going to take a step towards getting better, or I'm going to take a step towards getting worse. And that's just the reality of it. You choose. I said, and the main subject that I wanted to cover is acceptance versus surrender. So there's a lot of just kind of brief conversation within the threads on the post yesterday about acceptance and surrender. And Julie asked a great question. Well, what's the difference in acceptance and surrender? And I thought, I was so glad she asked it, because I had started to write out some notes about the difference. And some of you, there were some other questions and comments about what is surrender anyway. So as you know, acceptance means getting to a place where you realize, I really am sick. I've got a problem. I'm not like other people. I have an illness. My illness requires me to live differently if I want to get out of it, right? It's basically getting to a place where you're like, I get it. I'm never going to become a moderator. Acceptance is something that once you reach that, once you actually accept, it's done. For life, you understand that. It never changes. If I accept I have an illness, I've accepted. It's there. I know that I am not a moderator. I'm not going to become one. If you haven't gotten to that place, then you haven't accepted. Acceptance is something that you find in your heart, you believe it in your mind, and you know, I am sick. I didn't choose my sickness, but because I am sick, my life needs to change, right? Surrender is something different, and you might think that they're the same thing, but they're not. Surrender is something that happens on a daily basis. Acceptance is a one-time thing. You either have or you haven't accepted. Surrender happens daily. Surrender is a whole other level. Surrender means I am willing to I'm willing to cast aside how I feel about myself, what other people think of me, whether the world thinks that what's going on with me is a real sickness, what other people think of me in a restaurant. Surrender means every day that I live, I am willing to put aside what the rest of the world does, and I'm willing to take the steps that it takes. I'm willing to make those steps and take those steps in order to change something in my life. That's where the action is. You can have full-on acceptance with no action attached to it, and that's when you get in a funk. Because if you really accept that you're sick, but you don't have any kind of surrender, and you're not surrendered to the process of change, if you're not surrendered to the fact that you got to get up and take an action every day, you will be more miserable. So you can have full-on acceptance and no surrender and be stuck and miserable in your sickness. Surrender is getting up and saying, today, because I accept to have a sickness, I am going to do the things. I'm going to surrender to this process of healing. I'm going to do the things that have been told to me by those who are healed. It doesn't matter if they make sense. It doesn't matter if I think it's smart. It doesn't matter if I think it's boring. It doesn't matter if I've done this before. I'm going to do the things that will lead me to living a better life. And surrender can't just happen one time. I think that's part of what people get stuck on too. People say, okay, I'm surrendered to the process. So for example, one of the steps of surrendering to this process is I am going to come into the group every single day and I'm going to state my intention to stay sober. And be as specific as possible about that for where you are in your sobriety, right? That is something that I have shared with you guys, that people who stay sober long term, they start the day with intentions. You have this group available to you, so starting your day with intentions and accountability is a step that proves that you have surrendered to the process. Now, you might think, but I just did that yesterday. I told him I was going to be sober yesterday. Do I really have to do that every day? And in my experience, the answer is yes. If you come in every single day and you say, I commit to not eating foods off plan, or I'm already not eating off plan, but I'm snacking all day, so I'm committing to 3 meals. Coming into the group and saying what you're going to do specifically today is part of surrendering to a process that we know works. It's being accountable. It's putting yourself out there. It's stating your intentions. It's getting support. That is evidence of surrender. When you surrender daily, there is evidence of it in what you do, not in just the fact that you've accepted your illness. Because you can accept your illness and you can sit around and die. If I'm given a diagnosis that requires treatment and I don't participate in the treatment, I can accept that I'm sick, but I'm still going to die from it. Or I'm still going to stay sick. Surrender. And again, surrender is something you have to do on a daily basis. What does that look like? It means I open my eyes and I say, it is a priority to me to go in and do the things that are going to keep me well today. So what other things besides posting in the group can we do to help keep us well? you can spend the time and watch the short and long videos that are available to you. If you are given tools to help you be well, surrender looks like, I'm going to use these tools. You might say, well, I don't have time. And I'm going to say, yes, you do. The time that you're spending obsessing on food, so many of you are saying that, like, I can't stop thinking about food. I'm doing it all the time. Okay, instead of sitting around thinking about food, instead of standing in front of the refrigerator, sit down and watch a video, listen to a video, get tools, take notes. That's what surrender looks like. That's where the action part of getting well is. So when you're surrendered, you use the tools that are given to you. I surrender to the fact that I need to work this process, and it isn't just gonna happen. What else can you do? What else is surrender? Surrender is speaking out loud, speaking back. Every time you have that voice of sabotage, it's speaking out loud. It's coming to the group and saying, hey, I beat Ed. Ed said to me that I should do this. But I spoke out loud and I said, no, I'm not doing that. Surrender involves participation. Will you need to participate for the rest of your life? No. I think you need to stay connected to people who get your eating disorder and understand you. Doesn't mean you'll need a coach or a group like this for your whole life. But until you are secure in your sobriety, you might. The opposite of addiction is connection. It is. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And I think it's really, really, really important to fully understand that. And if you're choosing to stay disconnected, or if you're not choosing to actually lean in and connect at the beginning of your day, then you're not daily surrendering to the process. And, a lot of times people don't do things like speak out loud to Ed because they think it's silly, or they think that maybe that's a step they don't need to take. Well, I got to tell you, I have over 10,000 hours of working with people who struggle with Ed over the last, over 5 years. And I will tell you, even if it isn't the Ed of eating disorders, it's the Ed of other addictions or other compulsive behaviors or other sabotaging behaviors. It's a sabotaging enemy voice. Speaking out loud works. And if you're bucking against that and you're like, but I don't want to do that and that feels weird to me, you're not surrendering. You have to surrender to wisdom that you're given. And so I hope that makes sense. Acceptance, you absolutely can have acceptance without surrender. And acceptance is a one-time thing. I really, truly accept it. In my heart of hearts, I accept. If you haven't accepted, you need to explore what's keeping you from it. What are your doubts? What are your questions? And that's something you can work through and get to. But surrender happens every single day, and surrender has action attached to it. And then the other thing that I want to share with you is, and just sort of it's related to both of these things, and that is, if you feel like you are wandering and lost, and some of you that's the sense that I get, like you're wandering in the wilderness in this eating disorder, you are lost, it's because you don't have focus. If you're not looking ahead to where you're going, you're going to be focused on what's right all around you, and what's around you is a mess. When you're in your eating disorder, life is a mess. And you're paying a lot of attention to Ed, and you're paying a lot of attention to food, and you're thinking about this stuff, and it's getting this big jumbled mess. When you are focused, your eyes are locked on a place that you want to go, and instead of wandering around, your eyes are looking at that. I've mentioned it before, like it's sort of like running from Ed versus running towards something. If you don't have your vision locked on something you want, you're going to stay focused on Ed, and you're going to stay wandering in the weeds. How do you get out of that? You lock your eyes on a future that looks different than how you're living today. And for some of you, again, you don't know what your future looks like. You don't even know what it might look like to have a life that's free of Ed, but you got to understand that when you are free, you can create a whole different kind of life. Allow yourself to hope. Allow yourself to dream. Allow yourself to think about the things you don't do because of how you feel about yourself or because you are so obsessed with food. What are you missing out on in your life? Connections, relationships, hobbies, activities. There's so much that Ed robs from us. And you need to be able to lock in on, how would I live my life if I wasn't obsessed with food? Would I move my body more? Would I be less afraid to connect with someone? Would I have a relationship that I don't have today? Would I go places? Would I try things? Would I be more brave? I'm going to tell you, the person that you're going to become when you're free is entirely different than the person you are when you're sick and you're addicted. I know this. I've seen it with myself and I've seen it with others. The person that you become is so much better and so more interesting and so much more passionate about living than what you can even fathom. And you have to allow yourself to hope. Addiction and being stuck, it isn't just being free, I should say. Being free is not the absence of Ed. It is the presence of hope. And hope is a choice. You have to first start off asking yourself, what could life be like? And Ed's going to flood you with the thought of, you'll never be more than what you are, or this is the best that it gets. Remember, Ed's a liar. He never wants you to see you become the thing that you're supposed to be, or that you're called to be, or that you're capable of being. He is the voice of sabotage after all. What is it that he's sabotaging? He's not just sabotaging your sobriety. He's not just sabotaging your weight and your health. He's sabotaging your future. Doesn't even want you thinking it's possible that you have a future. So you have to get a vision for a life that is beyond what you've experienced thus far. If you have your eyes on the future, if you have your eyes on freedom, then you have hope. The absence of hope is living in absolute slavery to this thing. You have to choose to get out of it, and that starts with daily surrender. So hopefully you understand this, and it really is, it's all connected. It's complicated because of the things that we believe about ourselves and the way that we've lived our life for a while, but it's not hard. It isn't hard to say every day of my life I'm going to get up and post in a group. That's not hard. It's here. You have to say, I'm going to make the choice to surrender to this process every day and have faith in the people who are leading me, those in the group who are leaders because they are long-term sober people, and there are several of them, and me. I'm going to have faith that this process works. And I'm going to surrender to that daily by doing the things that I am told will help me get well. That's what surrender is, a daily thing. And that will get you in the place where you can get long-term wellness. So anyway, sorry, I know this is a longer live video, but it was just, I feel so passionate about it. And I want you guys to realize there is hope. You really are never too far gone. Never. If there was a too far gone, that was me, and I wasn't even too far gone. So you're not either. Surrender. And if you're struggling with acceptance, ask yourself why. I love the question, what's getting in my way? What is the hang up I have? What is the question I still have? What is it that I still believe that isn't true? So anyway, hope you guys have a great day. I've definitely got more videos for you this week. I'm definitely going to talk about the mood elevator. How do we stabilize our mood? I'll do that tomorrow unless something urgent comes up today in the group that I need to cover that's bigger than that. But otherwise, that'll be tomorrow. And then on Saturday, because this topic has come up and I didn't cover it last month, I covered it in a previous month, we're going to talk about how do we deal with secondary and tertiary addictions when I move from one thing to another thing, when I'm soothing with shopping, for example, or I'm soothing with some other behavior that doesn't serve me well. So I think that's going to be a great topic for Saturday. But anyway, thanks for listening. Again, sorry for a longer video, but I just wanted to pour my heart out to y'all a little bit thank people for opening up with their pain and their struggles, but also let you know that wherever you are in your struggles, staying there is not an option. You're either going to get better, you're going to get worse. You make that choice every day. Have a great day. Talk to you all soon.